Welcome back to Political Paradigm. My next guest is a former member of the House of Representatives from 2011 to 2015. He represented Ekiti North 1 federal constituency in the House of Representatives. My guest is Bimbo Daramola. Honorable, nice to see you again.
Thank you very much, Terry. How are you?
I'm very fine, and I'm sure you are as well. You've had quite a lot of time to rest, and I'm sure that the APC is happy to have you back in its fold again. So we will talk about your political history, but let me just pick up from where I left off with Honorable Mark Miller. With regard to the administration,
right?
You're one of those who believe strongly in the administration of President Bola Tinubu. So I'll start off by asking you what you think about his performance so far as president, just before we go into the conversation of the cabinet.
Okay. Now, I think, let me backtrack a little bit by saying I've known Asiwaju very well for about 28 years. So he predates now. And I know that he's an achiever. He's driven, he's goal-driven. He wants to achieve. I remember there was an article I wrote, and I said, Hurricane Tinubu, this president will cut an impression of somebody who has been in that political space for about almost 40 years, has seen the good, has seen the bad, has seen the ugly, been a part of some of the ugly processes and ugly times. And right now that he is in the saddle, he seems to be in a hurry to want to get things done. Most of those things that he had said on campaign rostrums, during Aluta, agitation, Adekwa, he feels that it's incumbent on him now that the buck now hands on his table. Let me give expression to every one thing I have said to Nigerian people.
Is it a good thing or bad thing that he's in a hurry?
Yeah.
Is it a good or bad thing that he's in a hurry?
It depends on, we have to contextualize it. So there's a phrase that says, hurry slowly, It's a kind of, you discover that every time he talks, he says, I feel your pains. I feel your pains. That's coming from the angle of somebody who knows that it could be better. But now hamstrung by the realities that he probably may not know the extent before getting into power. And now that he's in the position, he now sees that, I thought he was to the level of 10%, now I'm having to deal with 90%, okay? Don't imagine an Asiwaju, and this is not patronizing, don't imagine an Asiwaju or any leader at all wanting to inflict pains, not even an Asiwaju. So, he's torn between how do I quickly ameliorate the challenges that I see that are humongous are facing Nigerian people. And it's now ripped and stretched to the limits by the realities of fuel subsidy, the realities of labor, the realities of... Somebody will ask me, so you think he didn't know that before? Why didn't he factor it in? Factored. And that was why he said, okay, fine, I believe that subsidy, and a number of people had said it. Don't forget, right in this station, Issa Yuguda, former governor, former minister, had said that a friend of his came to him that he should prevail on the then president to take out this subsidy. Listen, everybody comes to that point where your conscience tells you this is not right. And so I feel that Asiwaju, and I sympathize a little bit with him, but the sympathy is to the extent that too many things are happening in a hurry, but he got to do these things. The job has to be done. Like we saw in production in those days, the show must go on.
When you talk about how passionate he is and interested in the job,
yes,
he doesn't answer how well he's done so far.
Okay, fine. Let me now talk about the basics of how he's done so far. When a man says that, I don't want to be a part of the arbitrage going on, what's that? He could have said, okay, keep sealed lips and be transactional. He says clearly from day one, I don't want to be a part of the arbitrage going on. That's one. I got to harmonize the different regimes of FX. I have to take out the fuel subsidy and all of that. So in 2 months, he has done things that governments that have gone ahead of him over 20 years have not contemplated. What we've done hitherto, or what we've seen hitherto, are people who were begging the issue, putting ointment on a boy that was cancerous. And now a man decides, and every oncologist knows that most tumors, when they have gone past being malignant, then the question is, we have to do an excision. And so we're going through a period of excision. That cannot be a very smooth time. before the administration of chemotherapy and all of those things. Let me not start sounding like a medical doctor, but the truth of the matter remains that there's a corollary between what we see today and what this president has found in that position. We can now begin to say that after 1 year, and the question to ask is that Nigerians, are we that indulgent? Yes, we are. Particularly when we see that there's a direction that this president seems to want to take us to. Let's give him benefits of the doubt. And then this administration only just got its full complement yesterday. So every one thing that President Tinubu had done in the past 2 months, 3 months, has probably been a near one-man show kind of thing. But now that he's got the full complements of government, you would now expect that yesterday you saw a wiki smoking from all cylinders. I just saw Governor Badaru saying that this is going to be insecurity is going to be dealt with in 1 year. And a number of other things, Kayamo saying something and all of that. So now, according to Section 148, these ministers will have to function at the behest of the president, delegated authority. Now the authorities have been given to them. Today, starting from this day, I am too sure all of these 48 guys are sitting in their very offices and not talking about anything else. They're not talking about having a cup of coffee. They're talking about the challenges that are on the table and how to get them sorted.
Well, it's 45 for now.
Oh, it's 40, sorry.
It's 45 for now.
Okay.
But, there are concerns as to how coordinated this administration is. And you talk about the speed with which he wants to implement certain policies and ideas of his. And it sort of buttresses the concerns of those who feel that the administration is seemingly lacking in coordination. I would ask you if perhaps this is the appointment of ministers now will sort of address that. But if you look back at some of the adjustments that this administration has had to make in the past 3 months, for example, the administration has had to backtrack on the 8,000 naira for palliatives. It's had to backtrack on the issue of fuel subsidy. It's also had to backtrack on the issue of student loan and had to rethink the matter, constitute a committee to look at the better implementation of it. And then there's the issue of the ministerial appointments as well, where we saw 3 days ago, where some ministers were moved based on observations from the public. Does it answer the question regarding coordination of the administration?
You need to. You can't cherry pick. You can't take one part and leave the other. Listen, we're talking about systems. Yeah. An administration will have to run in a systemic manner, and I'm not begging the issue. I'm telling you the way it is. It's like a coach who has his eyes on winning that match. Every one time, it tweaks with the number of people or the kind of people that he fields. He may have a formation that puts a Terry Kumi as a defender, and he knows that he can also flank. And he says, okay, now I need to rework, I need to rejig this team. It doesn't matter whether he does that 2 minutes to the end of the match or 2 minutes into the match. The coach that wants to win a match must read the match and say, okay, fine. Oh, I thought this guy is going to be a striker, but I recognize that he's been wounded, he's dealing with an injury. Okay, let me take him to a place where he can still play good football, even with that injury, without taking him out of that match. And so we need to understand, 2 months is not 2 years. Like I said, that phrase of make haste slowly, this president caught the impression of a president who wants to do so much within a short time. Did you listen to his speech yesterday when he was inaugurating these guys? And he said to them, listen, we're in the same boat. I've never had that kind of thing from any president in this country. And I am the driver. And he said things that anybody out of the 45 getting into their offices this morning, those words will resonate in their ears. That's not a man who lacks coordination. So, listen, I'm very critical when it comes to that, and you can check my history. But the truth of the matter, as we speak today, let's watch what these guys get to do with those words that they had from the coach yesterday, from the master driver, and let's see what we feel. Governor Wike said it yesterday, give me 6 months. The work plan, even though I don't agree with some of the things that he said, but what do
you not agree with?
I think for anybody to begin to signpost today with the time of El-Rufai of about 25 years ago, I think it's not a clear understanding of where we want to go. The FCT has been talking about sanitation, about street lights, about those are mundane things, with due respect. We're talking about smart cities now. We're talking about unfolding realities of managing a metropolis. And those have serious considerations. Of course, within that, you find the issue of security, sanitation, and all of those things. But the bigger picture is that Abuja is no longer where Abuja was when Rufai was there. New challenges have been introduced, and I expect the present minister to deal with the realities of now and not to make El-Rufai his standing point. No.
But El-Rufai has always been the standard point for just about everyone who's been minister here. So is there anything wrong with that to want to perhaps surpass his...
Now wait, El-Rufai was the... Listen, you don't keep using... Listen, at a point in time when we were born, aspirin was the thing. Today, how many people go to take aspirin? No.
Honorable, you know, when you talk about the president,
yes,
and your belief in him and the caliber of people he has now, there are those who are raising concerns as to whether we've got it right or the president. In fact, I heard someone say that this is the worst ministerial appointment he's seen in the history of this country. And then he points to certain positions. One of them is security, where you have politicians manning the position, former governors, Minister of Defense, and Minister of State for Defense. And then they also point to Mr. Dele Alake, who is vast in matters of information and communication. And then he's heading solid minerals with no qualification to be in that position. So people point to these things and question whether the president understands what he wants to achieve, and if he believes that he's put the right people in those positions to achieve those things.
Okay, my easiest answer to that would be that it's one thing to be, I'm a geologist, for instance, but now I'm in communications. You must have capacity to multitask and to be multidisciplinary when it comes to position of power. I'd never been in the parliament before, but by the grace of God, I knew I had a job to do. I knew I had an obligation to Nigerian people and my constituents. And I went forth in the role. I didn't study political science. I dare ask you, did you do mass communication in school?
You know, there are some jobs that don't require a certain level of education to be able to attain them.
Yeah.
You agree with me?
Yeah, but
for
you're not going to be running a one-man show.
As a geologist, would you be as confident to say that you have just ventured into the medical field without prior qualification?
Let me say this to you, and I referred to that before. This is a systems matter. All of those guys will provide thematic trust and have full complements of the bureaucracy that will work with them. Keyamo, SAN, Festus Keyamo, my friend and brother, SAN, as intelligent as he is in law, does that vitiate the fact that that intelligence will go to nothing when it gets to aviation? He understands that, I am here first and foremost to manage people. And that is what everybody must understand when it comes to this. Condoleezza Rice came from Stanford, regarded as one of the brightest secretaries of state in the United States. Madeleine Albright, same reputation. So what are we talking about here? What I want us to say is that the people, listen, even if you had appointed a minister of health as a medical doctor, and that would be appropriate, because that helps understanding, that helps you to quickly fast-track development and actions and all of those things. And I will expect that was done with Dr. Pate here. But the truth of the matter also is the fact that you will not be running that ministry as a one-man show. And so you will be supported. You will expect that Nigerians will understand that this man would have to be braced by people who, and then...
But then you understand that at the Federal Executive Council meeting, the president will take advice from the minister because the president cannot know anything. So if the president who doesn't know is taking advice from a minister who doesn't know that much in that field, who believes that whatever he's got from the people under him is the best, do you think that that is the way to go? And I ask this because if you had a business of your own and you wanted someone, let's say you own the hospital and you wanted someone to, a nurse or someone, would you go to just anybody who's available or whom you trust and give the person that position, believing that they could just pick up and learn on the job?
Very good. Chief Afe Babalola owns one of the best hospitals in Ekiti State. Afe Babalola Multidiscipline Medical Center. Chief Afe Babalola is known for legal practice, but his hospital is one of the best in this country today. How did he achieve that?
Hiring the best hands.
Yes. End of story. It's that simple.
Listen,
by the grace of God, I built a 32-bed hospital for my people.
Hang on,
let me finish that. I'm not a medical doctor, but I read about some of these things. I have basic understanding. More than anything else, I knew then that, okay, fine, I want to solve the problem of primary, at the level of primary health care, malaria, chickenpox, and things like that. And so, I could have, in fact, somebody suggested to me that I should make the place an oncological center. And I said, it would just be a research center and not be useful to my people. So, the truth of the matter is that we must come to the point where, first and foremost, the person who is leading that ministry, does he have that demonstrated capacity in other fields that puts him in as somebody who, this is not begging the issue. This world has gone beyond, these days that people now use ChatGPT to write proposals. And then you're not a medical doctor, just Google, how do I treat chickenpox?
That's not
ChatGPT will give you.
I mean, that's not what I would do, because self-treatment is
but this is the thing. Now, when you come to practice, would you expect, when you now say that a minister, Festus Keyamo, now gets into the plane and begins into the cockpit and begins to fly, then there's crisis. But in the administration of the aviation sector and aerospace, then we can lean on the fact that he has demonstrated enough capacity.
So compare that to the former Minister of Education, Adamadumo, who said after 8 years that he had no idea, he had no qualification in this field and perhaps no idea how to run it, but he sat there for 8 years. Look at the education sector. Yeah. Under him, would you say that we made progress?
Well, that's regrettable. That is unfortunate, and it is very regrettable that he even kept that job for 8 years. And you don't have anybody else to blame, you know who to blame for that. But let me say this to you. Adi Sirika, a pilot, was the Minister of Aviation. How did he leave the aviation sector?
I think he didn't do well.
Not my thoughts. Ask Nigerians, ask Airpeace, ask Medview, ask these practitioners, ask AOL. Adi is a pilot. So how did he leave the place?
Honorable, let's go to issue of the cost of living, and especially linking that to the fuel subsidy removal, which is largely responsible for the state standard of living in the country right now. You applauded the president when he made the statement on no more fuel subsidy. So hearing the president talk about a reconsideration of partial subsidy, how does that make you feel?
Worried, disturbed. And I had written something about this before, and I said, I hope the president is not going to be harassed into reneging on the decision to take out the fuel subsidy, But unfortunately, we're coming to that position now, and we may be reversing our fortunes for an administration that implemented the decision to take out subsidy and raked in 1 trillion naira very first 1 month. All of this money that they are giving to these governors, where did you think it came from? You manufactured them. He did that without ways and means. The money came out of here.
The money for the governors is not from the fuel subsidy money.
I'm saying to you that the administration had 1 trillion to spend.
I'm just saying that the 5 billion to the governors is not from fuel subsidy.
Well, regardless, if you're talking about systems, that will still feed into our earnings in one form. If we took it as a debt, we need to pay back. And how do we pay back? If we're paying back and servicing our exposures and all of that, it will come from this $1 trillion. So it's systemic. Now, if we raked in 1 trillion naira in 1 month, tell me which administration has done that in the past 20 years. And I'm saying that I feel it. For instance, the gas into my car now is about 50K. I feel it. And I know more Nigerians, more than 95% or 98% who feel it. But the truth of the matter is that the Bible says, for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross. we must come to a point in time, even in our personal lives, we've had to take decisions that will hurt at the now in expectation for a glorious one in future, much later. And so we must also contextualize this nation in that context. If we had a president who cared no less, who couldn't be bothered, who wanted to fritter fortunes, then it would have been something for worry. But if we push him back to get to that point, let me tell you, and this is one thing I have said everywhere, I have screamed myself also about this. If we don't deconstruct the CBN, if we don't deconstruct the NNPC as it is today, I've written it, and I know what I'm saying. I know what I know. If we don't totally, I'm talking about total deconstruction of those two entities, we'll be dancing around in circles.
You know, while you talk about your concerns with the reintroduction of partial subsidy, this is as quickly as you can answer because we're just about out of time now.
All right.
How do we balance, the president is under pressure, so how does he balance the needs of Nigerians occasioned by the removal of fuel subsidy and the needs to maintain no subsidy to generate revenue because he's under pressure?
Well, you know, unfortunately, we don't have too much of time to talk about it, but I've written a few things about it. Let me say to you that we must stratify the society. The needs of Terry Ikumi as a middle-income earner is different from the man from your village. The society must be divided along that line. It cannot be a one-hand-fits-all glove. It's not possible. So the 5,000 or 10,000 or 8,000, that I don't think is particularly, granted the experience of the past. And I said it then. This money is not going to be regenerative. We're throwing the money down the drains. So we must, unfortunately, we don't have too much of time. The society must be stratified and then begin to look at it from income dimensions. Dimension the society and say, okay, fine, this catchment, what would be the palliative that these guys need? We're talking about farmers. What is the palliative that they need? One of the palliatives that farmers will need would be make it safer for them to be able to go to farm. That's one of the palliatives that an average farmer in the north will need. And then another person, another particular category, you say, okay, fine. Once the produce comes out, make it possible for them to be able to sell. That's palliative. Listen, handouts alone may cure the need for breakfast or lunch or dinner, but it's not going to cure hunger for a long time.
Honorable Bimbo Daramola, I'd like to thank you very much for your time.
Merci.
I'm hoping that we can have you back again and we can have a longer time to have this conversation and more. Because I think that your political history is one that's very interesting. And I would be looking forward to having a longer conversation with you.
It's not very easy. It's just like that, but when we have time, we'll talk about
Absolutely. it. Thank you very much once again. Yeah. Honorable Bimbo Daramola is a former member of the House of Representatives from Ekiti State. And that's Political Paradigm today. Thank you very much for your time as well. For more on this and others, please go to YouTube and search Political Paradigm or simply go to channelstv.com. I am Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.